Okay, we're going. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Once Upon a Game. We're playing Microscope today. This is the game that kind of kicked off everything for me, and it's excited to come back and facilitate Microscope again for everyone online. We're playing the special Explorer version of Microscope. One of the three. We're playing Chronicle, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's very close to regular old Microscope, so if you ever wanted to see how Microscope's played, it's basically done the same way as this. And you also notice that we're not using Roll20 for this game. It's because I'm using this other program called Draw.io, which does a far better job at making index cards and moving them around. So that's all we got to do to say about that. I know why you guys are here. It's actually because of these three handsome gentlemen who have joined me today. So if you don't know who they are, yeah, let's just go down the line real quick and say what's up. So hey, Umbra, welcome.
Hi, Eric. Glad to be here.
Yes. Welcome. How are you? Have you played Microscope before?
I have not, but I have some plans to do it in the near future, possibly for future
Reasons?
stuff. Yeah, future reasons that might come up. So, but I think I would check it out, and I could think of no better place to do it.
Yeah. Great. Cool. So that's exciting. It's always good. I always like when people are interested in a game and they want to come on to the show and try it. So that's really cool. I appreciate that. Thank you. Cool. Going down the line, Brad, RP Glory, welcome.
Hey, it's good to be on. I have played Microscope before. I think with you at least once.
Yeah. At least once.
Yeah. And I am very much a fan. It's a great world building game. Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have you back. And speaking of people being back, Demosthenes, welcome.
Hey, yeah, it's been a long time.
Yes, it's been quite the time, and I think the last time you were on, we probably played Microscope, or was it your playtest or what? Like it's been a hot minute.
The last time was my playtest, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome chat. Yes. So, like I said at the beginning, we're playing Microscope, but more importantly, we're playing a game together, everyone, and we're adults, and we're doing this thing that's really special and fun. These games are kind of weird and awkward for games because they rely on so much of our individual minds and magical powers to bring the ideas to life and listen to one another and collaborate and challenge each other. The rules of these games are just simple clay, and it's our steady hands that give life into these games today. And that's kind of an interesting thing. It's really magical, and I just want to caution everyone that remember that we're first and foremost human beings playing a game, and our fun and our safety and all that kind of stuff matters more than whatever's going on in the fiction. We're also all truly really smart, talented individuals. So even if we go down for 2 hours playing with an idea and we realize this is actually really troubling and we don't want to do it, I believe that we can actually retcon that and override it, and we are very smart people, even if it's integral, because once again, your safety and happiness matters more than whatever the fictional stuff is in the game. We are human beings, and that we can never forget about that. Okay, so we have tools in case things get really bad. We have the X card, but also just a simple like, okay, can we stop the scene here? Or hey, in the future, actually, I'm not really sure about this type of content. I know I said okay with it earlier, but can we just kind of like not do any more about that stuff? Like just something like that, right? And you don't have to justify it. We will trust you when you say that it's an issue. Okay. So with that out of the way, we can begin to play Microscope Chronicle. So Chronicle is a little bit special. It's different than regular Microscope because instead of looking at a era of something over time, right, whatever that might be and whatever kind of change we have, whether it's a galactic civilization or someone in high school, Explorer Chronicle is far more focused on a single item or artifact or a kingdom. The Chronicle will be taking place just like any old Microscope, where we're going to have bookends of our history, and we're going to be exploring between those two bookends and get as granular as we want. However, there's an added thing that within each eon, within each significant chunk of time, we see things through the lens of a major character. And this character is called the Anchor. And there is an anchor for each mechanically termed period of time. Those are really the only differences of the game. The rest of it will be the same. I'll explain it going forward. But just know that rather than regular Microscope, where you kind of just follow the focus of whoever is going and do everything normally, this one has that little special extra twist where you're thinking about a point of view of a certain character living through these events. So you might not understand what I'm saying when I say that. Just don't worry about it right now. We'll get everyone ready to go. But that's just for my advanced Microscope players who've played before. We start with Microscope with discussing what our high concept's going to be. This is in Microscope Chronicle. This is going to be the item that we're going to be exploring, or concept that we're going to be exploring in detail. We do this before we come up with a palette and all those types of things. This is just kind of our, just the seed that from which everything else will grow from. So perhaps I should ask some leading questions before, right? It's really hard to come up with creativity from scratch. So how about are we thinking something realistic? Are we thinking something fantasy? Are we thinking something sci-fi? Let's slowly narrow in that way.
Yeah.
I have something realistic in mind, but that can also go to fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was also thinking in those directions.
Yeah, I have often played Microscope where it's really out there, so something that's more realistic and
grounded,
personal sounds cool.
Yeah, cool. Okay, great. So we're thinking about something pretty realistic then. So let's drill into that. Do we want something historically realistic, something modern, or is like something near future realistic? Are we thinking about doing something in the past, like something very historical like Rome, or are we thinking about something like the United States or Sweden, or like what are
the idea that's been fermenting in my mind for the past 30 seconds is the doing Excalibur or like something like it,
an actual Excalibur,
like something like that, because they use this weapon of like not only like terrible power but also like significance to a kingdom, or something like that.
But like specifically early Britain, or just an artifact like that's legendary like that.
Yeah. I would be fine with setting it elsewhere, maybe like Mesopotamia or something like that, or like Egypt.
Okay, so we're still thinking like ancient history, but there's like a mythical sword that for kings and conquerors, right?
Yeah.
So
like ancient history.
Yeah, what's been mulling in my head is like I'm also surrounded by antique furniture, so I was thinking of like an antique item, like a vanity desk, or like a jewelry case or box or something like. That's kind of, but I mean that's less exciting than Excalibur.
Well, maybe. I mean, I'd be fine with like a desk or something like that. If we did want to go with a weapon, maybe like specifically call it a kopek, which is the sort of the
sword.
Egyptian sword that's got that kind of goes up and then has this curving blade to it. That you could...
I'm not sponsored. I'm just seeing pictures of dogs.
Chronicling a dog would be adorable. Okay, so well, I think we're definitely looking then at ancient history, and ancient. No, I think we're going to get overruled a little bit, Robert. I think we're going to do a sword over a desk.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair.
Okay, cool.
Fine
So
either way.
yeah. So what's the name of this sword? I know that's the hardest part of role-playing games, right? Is coming up with a name.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. What kind of person names their sword?
The ancient sword of
Yeah.
kings, right? Whatever it is, like it's like the ancient sword of kings. I can spell.
It could be. It might be interesting to tie it into like Egyptian mythology, like like no, there weren't actual gods, but it's like believed to be the sword with which Set slew Osiris.
So is it like what is it? Yeah, but what is the name?
But
Is
the name,
is this leading towards
yeah.
the name of the sword? Yeah, not its history,
Well,
but
with
more
that
its name.
color, yeah, to try and inform it.
Yeah.
So is it like the God Blade? Like what do we want to call this thing?
Ooh, I mean, maybe something like the betrayal of Osiris, like some name like that has like it's
I
not.
like it.
Okay, the betrayal of Osiris. The ancient divine sword of kings. Cool. Okay. That's our high concept. After we figure out what we're going to chronicle, that's the thing. So this is the object that we're going to chronicle through time. We make our bookends, and we're going to highlight when we make our bookends of history. Book one on the left, which is in the past, and the bookend 2 on the right is the one that's going to be where the hard cap. Nothing further, nothing behind. Well, we try to highlight how the Chronicle has changed or even stayed the same from our point of history to the end. So what are we thinking for these?
Well, I'm thinking for the end that it ends up in a museum somewhere, and nobody knows what it is. Or it's just like a sword, like historical sword.
Okay, so let's flesh that out. So this is where so it's going to end in the museum, right?
Yeah.
Are we talking kind of like modern day?
I think so. Maybe like early 1900s.
Okay.
Like, ish.
Sure.
Yeah, like the exciting part of archaeology, like Indiana Jones time.
Yeah.
Interred? What would be the word for this?
Stolen.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Plundered.
Scavenged.
Ooh, scavenged.
And for the opening bookend,
So I'm gonna. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna say the sword is scavenged by the Royal Historical Society of England, right? I guess. I mean that,
Yeah.
if we want to, yeah. 800s. Okay, and it's beginning.
So I was thinking, at some point while the I guess it's called the Upper Kingdom was still before it was conquered by the Lower Kingdom. If I have that correctly, I think it's confusing because it's I think the Upper Kingdom was farther south, but it was considered upper because it was
The Nile
closer to the
runs.
source of the Nile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. Sure. Okay, so we're gonna say it was found on the banks of the upper. Is that what you're saying? Or
just
do we
for
begin?
the first bookend, that the Upper Kingdom is still intact, rather than having been conquered by the Lower Kingdom.
So are we starting with like the sword being forged, or is this like the sword is found somewhere?
Yeah, remember, so like we need to highlight how the Chronicle has changed or stay the same from the beginning of history. So this is the beginning of history that we're looking at. What is the sword? What is our object? we have to highlight that, and what is it like in this Upper Kingdom?
I like it being found more than forged. Starting like kind of hand waving away the forging of the sword, just like that it's found somewhere. I think that is.
Oh, you know what? I forgot one more thing. For both of these two bookends, light or dark, tonally, what are these two bookends? So like, I forgot to ask that about the sword and the being scavenged by the British. Is that light or dark?
I mean, I think that's going to be dark, right?
It doesn't have to be. Works for me.
Mm.
And then what about the?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, I'm saying the Upper King of Egypt is found. Oops.
Hey guys, there's a place over here. The land actually just keeps going.
Okay. Is finding the sword light or dark?
Let's call that light.
Okay. Works for me.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we follow the regular old Microscope rules for making the palette. So, the palette for Microscope is something very special if you never played it before. You know what? I've just realized I'm not really explaining the rules very well. For some of you guys who forgot. So maybe I'm gonna take 5 minutes before I do the yes or no palette. I just want to explain what we just did and those bookmarks again, right? And how this game's actually going to work. So I don't really feel like I did that. What we just did, this yellow and this purple thing here, these are our bookends of history that we're looking at. Maybe, I think I said that a couple times, maybe we got that far. But the way the rest of this game's going to work is that we're going to have the options of curating new middle books in this row. These are distinct periods of time that are important. You will have to explain why it's a new period, like why it doesn't bleed into that, why periods bleed into one another. Like they really shouldn't. I know it's kind of always not as easy to, it's easier said than done, but like coming up with a pretty like strong reason why this is a different thing. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. Like highest level period of time, like a chunk of time. Like, if you open a textbook, this is a chapter, right? The next thing beneath these things, because this game's fractal, beneath it are events. Events are like the paragraphs, or like, the subheaders of this history book. These are like the big major things that happen, that something has happened, right? This is Atlantis getting destroyed, right? Like this is whatever. And then within those, you have what are called scenes. And scenes are very, very specific, addressing a question. So periods sit at the top, events sit down here, and then scenes live in events, right? So all events live in a period, all scenes live in events. That's the way the game's going to work. So when it's your turn, you're going to be picking one of those three types of things to do, and that's just the overall gist of everything. So now that's how the game is played. Now we're back to doing what the actual rules say, which is the palette. So the palette's sort of our tonal thing. This is the thing that's going to help us decide what's in the game and what's not in terms of content. Things in the yes category are things that if you're ever not sure what you want to add to the game, refer to the yes palette. It's things that we have flagged that we are interested in. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in the game. It's just that we're interested in it. But the no palette is off-limit stuff. That's the stuff that we decided that we absolutely do not want in our game. And right, so like if we don't want to have spiders in our game, and it had no one spiders, then you can't add spiders. But if we had yes spiders in our game, then there doesn't necessarily have to be spiders, but it's been flagged as something that would be interesting. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So something that I think I want to make sure I'm going to add to the yes pod to get started to give you an idea of what I mean. It doesn't have to be necessarily specific nouns and content. It could be more themes and ideas. For example, in the yes palette, or actually, I'm sorry, in the no palette. I'm going to put in the no palette. I'm going to say no explicit, like, historical realism. Like, I don't know that much about necessarily the various different ages and kingdoms and gods of that stuff. So if I take some liberties, I'm saying that's okay. Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, like, we don't have to be super hardcore by the book history here. All right, so that's what I'm putting the no. It's like no verbatim.
Yeah, I was just grasping at the few
Yeah.
things that I did know. But
Right? Yeah, no, that's perfectly
Yeah.
cool. Right? I know. I do this for the same thing with I typically like to put that in whatever game I play, to be honest with you. It's just one of those things that I think is my style of, I don't care necessarily how magic works unless it's really important. I don't really need you to explain the hard sci-fi of why this gravity drive does a certain thing. It's just called the, whatever gravity drive. It's cool. Right? That's what I'm trying to get at with here, is that we don't have to explain exactly this is 337 BC and this person's in power, or no, that's not true, Eric. This other person, like that's the stuff I'm trying to avoid. Okay, so what do you want to do?
I think I have something for the no palette.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add no Moses allegory to the no palette. I feel like that's often covered a lot in Egyptian stories. And
Okay.
Does that mean like no great men of history thing, or like do you mean like leading slaves for freedom, like literally at the Moses thing?
like just the Moses allegory that there's a baby
Okay.
found on the riverbanks and like the
Okay.
Prince of Egypt kind of.
Sure. Yeah, Prince of Egypt. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm also going to add a thing to the no palette, is that I don't want explicit divinity in the game. Like we're not going to see any gods or hear anyone like speak to the gods and have the gods answer.
Right. But okay, so it's clear though. We live in a society though where we are superstitious and will perceive that things like this do, right? Like kind of like True Detective-y. Like it's not
religion is a thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, we don't see it explicitly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I had been thinking of something along the lines of adding religion, but definitely not in a way that doesn't trample on either of the no's. So like sort of
I mean, you can just add like religion as a thing, but we don't have to
like
go any further.
Non-monotheistic religion. I'd like to see.
Yeah.
But definitely not like actual gods, just like the worship of them and having that influence.
Totally. Okay.
I'm gonna add a yes to, I think. I want cats, like just like solid representation of cats.
Yeah. I want.
It's good.
I want families. I want legacy. I want like lineage. I want who you marry and your offspring and their offspring and stuff to be the family structures. Something that's interesting.
Yeah.
I also don't necessarily mean traditional families. I just mean the concepts of families. Like you live under the same roof, like you are close.
I think I want to see travel. To see a lot of travel. That's one thing I think would benefit from focusing on an item, is that we don't have to stay in one place. I think we can see a lot of different places of
Cool.
our pseudo-historical world.
Yeah. By the way, if the way we stop the palette is if your guys are good with the palette, you can just say pass or I'm good, and we can wrap up.
Okay. I'd like to see invasions.
Yep.
I think I'll pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Sure.
Okay. Cool. Nice. So then we are done the palette. Now, once we're done the palette, we do what's called the first pass. Each of us is going to take a turn to make a period or an event as usual. But just unlike regular old Microscope, remember, the first person to make an event in a period constructs the anchor. And once again, the anchor is the character that has that we're going to be viewing that period from. It's not necessarily the person with the sword, right? It's just that is the person who's we're going to see through their perspective and their point of view the events that unfold during this period. Okay? I know that might be a little bit confusing, but so once again, so we're going to be creating periods or events in a first pass. Remember, if you create an event, it must live under a period. So if there's no period that you see that you want something to happen yet, you can just go ahead and do that. You have a lot of power here, right? And they don't have to be, the best thing about Microscope is that they don't have to be chronological necessarily. Like, if somebody's, this is an achronological game. If someone describes the destruction of Egypt as a period, well, then you can create a period before that being like the heyday, the golden years of Egypt, right? Like, it's totally cool. You can just fit that in there. You can just slice history a different way. Just because someone makes the destruction of it doesn't mean that you can't play the moments before when it's good too, right? Just how you can always just destroy something in the game and it'll be okay as well, right? So that's an important thing to keep in mind when we're going to do some construction and stuff. I'd rather not go first for this. I like giving other people the option to step forward as facilitator, but I totally understand if you guys aren't sure or aren't not comfortable with me after me explaining the game so poorly about what to do. So it's your guys' call.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'd like to add an event to the first period.
Sure.
Is this going to be?
Go ahead and describe it, and then I will jot it down.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is the establishing of the sword's divinity. This is like priests and rulers like realizing that this sword is something else, that it's not just of man but of gods, that it belongs to another world.
So like they like recognize like the legitimacy of it or gravity of the sword.
Yeah, those are all good words. This is a divine artifact.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and for an anchor, I think we're going to need a high priestess of some sort.
Sure. There's one more thing you got to do with that event though before you make that before you make the anchor. Is this event light or dark?
I think this. I could see it going either way. This is like. I think this event is dark. I think this is adding bureaucracy to divinity.
Okay.
Which doesn't help anyone.
No, it does not. Okay, so now we construct the anchor. I'm gonna put anchors above the periods that they belong to. I'll also write in here bookend, just so it's clear.
Okay. And yeah, I think the anchor is going to be Atef, High Priestess. That's ATEF.
Cool. Good. And that's your first pass.
So if you'd like, I can go ahead and I'd like to go ahead and add a period. Call it the Canaanite assimilation. This is like the first. This is slightly after the first time Egypt was invaded, and it's the sort of the first of possibly several times that the Egyptian culture kind of takes in the these new rulers and assimilates them.
Yeah. Okay, so the Canaanite assimilation?
Yeah.
Is this period of time light or dark?
Let's call it light.
Okay.
And so I need a specific person to
No,
the
no,
air-
the
or
event,
no,
the person who does the
or
event
just
will do
an
that.
event. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first event maker creates that person.
Cool.
Cool.
I think I'll add another period.
Mm-hmm.
I think this happens after the assimilation.
Okay.
And I mean, I kind of in my head think of it as like the War of Kings. I'm trying to find a better name for that. But I'm thinking this is a period where this sword keeps getting passed along to like various kingdoms, like the various smaller kingdoms that all just like fight each other. Like whoever has the sword causes like a big war to happen.
Yeah.
The sword gets to someone else. More wars happen.
Sure. Is this light or dark?
I'm gonna say it's light.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm also going to create a period, but I'm going to do it between the Canaanite assimilation and the War of Kings. This is a time of great natural events and turmoil. This is like a period of time when the weather just is not cooperating. There was, for a period of time, there was a massive flood, like from the water, like a tsunami, right? Like hit like the shores, and then and if that wasn't enough, ash started falling from the sky, right? It just wasn't a good time, right? And so I think there was just a time of like just geographic upheaval, and I just don't know what to call it though.
Or do you want to call it the plagues of Egypt?
No, it's not necessarily plagues. It's more like just like the weather is just bad. Like it's just this period of time when nothing seems to work.
Maybe the god's punishment.
Yeah, I would call it the punishment. Yeah.
Yeah.
The trials, right?
The punishment.
Tribulation? Or is that too biblical?
Yeah. Say the trials of the earth is what I'll call it. And of course this is dark. Cool. So now that we've all gone and we did our first pass, now we begin play. During play, we're going to be taking turns sharing what this mega role is called. It's called the lens, this lens role is the person who's going to decide what the focus is for this round of play. This game occurs in rounds. The way it works is that everybody gets to go, and then when it gets back to the person who started, they get to go one more time, and then they wrap up, and there's this thing called the legacy, which happens, and then they describe what the legacy is, which is sort of like the return to an idea that came up with through play, and then we pass it on, and the next person goes. We pass over the focus or the lens role, the lens hat to the next player, and the cycle repeats. That's the entire game. I would not like to be the first focus or the first lens. The lens sets the focus. Ideas for focuses can be wide or narrow. The narrower the focus, the more vertical a game of Microscope gets. The wider the focus, typically the wider the game gets, the more flat instead of tall. A focus can be kind of like anything like from the palette, right? Or it can be very, very specific. It can be a name, or it could be love, right? It's very much up to you. And the first person who gets to be the focus, I guess, is going to be you, Umbra, because you're the one next to me on the screen, and
Sure.
I want to go last. So.
Okay. Yeah, then I think our current focus is going to be. I want to have a look at the War of Kings. I want to see what that's about.
So you're just gonna make the focus the War of Kings?
Yeah.
Cool. So now what happens is that you get to do something special because you are the focus, or you're the lens. You, just like everyone else, is now bound to create fiction that's regarding and concerning the War of Kings. But you as the lens has a special power to kind of go twice in a row real quick. If you can, so you can go and you can create a new period and an event inside of it, or you can pick an existing period and make a new event and create a scene inside of that. And a scene is when we do like role playing and stuff. The alternative, though, is that if you wanted to do a quick little dictated scene, which is kind of like you just narrating a little vignette or something like that, then happens that way. All right.
Okay.
Alternative.
Yeah,
So that's how you go twice, right? Like you have that special power. You can't create two separate events. You can only do something and then something inside of it, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that is. All right.
Okay. So I think the event that starts off the War of Kings, that I'm going to say that the old king is dead, and his sons and successors can't settle on who is king. They all have legitimate claims in their own way. And this is how the war breaks out, how these like small kingdoms start appearing, how everyone carves out their piece of the realm for themselves, and how the fighting begins. I think the first scene in that is the funeral of the old king.
Hold on one second. So how would I describe your event? Is it just the
event is going to
the balkanization?
Call it the shattering of the realm. Balkanization is a good word.
Okay, cool. Is that event light or dark?
I think that event is probably light. I think the kingdom has grown too big for itself and needs to reorganize.
Okay. And who are we doing? And because you made it an event, before we do the scene, who is the anchor?
The anchor, I think, is... Let's see. I mean, I think it's probably the old king.
So, what king?
The one who came before, the one who's dead now. But it's all sort of based on his legacy. And his name is going to be... Let's see. Should we just have these up? I'm going to say that his name is Senet, Senet. Senet, the old king.
He was the last king with the sword, or like of the old realm. Yeah. Okay.
It was king of Egypt.
Sure. Okay. Works for me. Now you can create the scene in it.
Yeah, I think the first scene is going to be the funeral of King Senet, because this is I think we see this huge funeral procession walking through a city. There's some sort of, we see that the people are crying. There's dressed in the garb of mourners.
So, hold on. Because we're doing a scene, before you do any more, this is how... So, scenes in Microscope have a very specific thing.
Okay.
They are about a question that's trying to be answered. So, for all scenes in this game, they must have a relevant question associated with them that we're playing to find out what is the answer to. Or if it's a dictated scene, you still have to say what the question is and then what the answer is.
Okay.
So you have two choices here for that scene. You can either say the question as well as the answer, and that's a dictated scene, or you can say a question and then we can start forming the scene together. Like we all get to play characters in it and stuff.
Okay.
And I think one thing to mention is the tricky part about coming up with the question is that it probably works best if you make it a very leading question, like you pack in a bunch of facts and details within it.
Exactly, like who betrayed their mom for power, right? Like so, like oh, okay, I guess someone did, you know.
Yeah, I think the question then is going to be: Will the children of King Senate ever settle on which one of them should be king? I think the answer to that is going to be no. This war is going to last at least a generation.
Okay, so you're answering it already. So it's a dictated scene.
Yeah, I think we see them bickering amongst themselves, and we see that this fight is not going to last. It's not going to end. It is going to last for a long time.
Okay, and is this light or dark?
I think this is dark.
Okay. Cool. And now the torch is passed over to Brad. Brad, once again, you have to do a focus about the War of Kings. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to stay to the period exactly, but it has to be something related to the War of Kings. And if asked, you have to justify why the thing you're creating is related to the War of Kings.
Okay. So I think I'd like to do an event. Is it okay to... It is okay to fill in like a personage doing the event, correct? Even if it's not Senate, since he's dying at the very sort of the very beginning of the war.
It's done through their perspective, though.
Okay.
All events in this period have to relate to the anchor of the period. So he doesn't have to be alive, but it has to relate to him.
Okay. So I think the event is the beginnings of reunification, but the seed of that reunification is one guy sacking a bunch of temples of various other gods. And definitely dark.
So what do we call this? This raiding of the temples and stuff?
Yeah. Call it the just I guess the great sacking, for lack of for lack of something better.
And you said it was dark.
Yes.
Okay, that comes after the shattering of the realm.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right, goes to you, Demosthenes.
All right, I think I'm gonna add a scene in the Great Sacking.
Okay.
And this is the scene is it's one of the temples that are being razed to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene is like in the chaos of all of the two armies. We see two of the brothers kind of meet up, in the chaos, and they probably haven't seen each other since the or that original argument
That led
at
to the
funeral.
wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So we want to do that scene?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the question that's being asked? Figuring this question is literally the hardest part of Microscope.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna shoot for the moon and go, which brother survives?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what that's. Yeah. Cool. So who's in this scene? You, as the scene creator, can require certain characters, even if they haven't been named yet. And then you can also forbid characters. I mean, I think it would make sense if it's just a scene between the two brothers, but like, whatever you want to do. Because like you could
my things cut out first.
Sorry. Okay. So, if you were, so part of creating a scene in Microscope.
Okay, hold on. My internet connection is slow. It just is poor.
Oh dear.
Yeah, there's a bit of interference.
Are we good?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think so. Can you hear us?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. I missed basically everything you just said, Eric.
Okay, that's fine. No worries.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So, when you make a scene in Microscope, you can declare and require characters in the scene, as well as forbid characters from being in the scene. Even if they haven't been named yet. You can create names and be like, I require this person in the scene.
Okay. I think I require the two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need 4 characters?
Nope.
Or, yeah. I think the two brothers, and I also want a soldier on the brother who is doing the sacking. I want one of the soldiers in the scene.
Okay. So, now we have the options of stepping forward and choosing who we want to play in this scene. Robert, you have to choose last, because you created the scene, so everyone else gets to choose. In order, it would go to me next to choose. I'm playing the brother who doesn't have the soldier on their side. So I'll say Bro 1, and their name is Rhea. I don't want to say Rhea the Loving.
Is that ironic?
Right? I want one that's about compassion. The Stout? No. I don't know what the accolade this person should have. So there's gonna be Rhea. Okay. So that's who I'm gonna be playing.
Okay. I'm gonna be playing the soldier, I think.
Okay.
Sort of on the other bro's side. His name is going to be Intef. Intef.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'll play the other brother. I guess I could choose somebody else and have Demosthenes play the other brother, but I'll go ahead and play the other brother and name him Unis. UNAS.
UN. What was that?
UNAS.
Unas. My ancient Egyptian's a bit rusty.
Yeah.
Okay. One more thing to do now. Robert, if there's no character you want to play, because just because you require characters doesn't mean you can also don't have to make a new character. If you want, or you could just sit out of it. You don't have to participate.
Oh.
So I really wanted to play a cat at the temple, but I also don't want to be that guy. So I'll just sit this one out.
Okay. So you're a cat.
Oh, there is the option to play time, right? Where
Yeah.
you're just kind of pushing events forward.
I think I'm gonna stick with the cat.
The cat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. So now before the scene begins, everybody goes in order and describes what their character is thinking at the start of this. So and then the scene begins. So Rhea is thinking that he will never tell his brother where their father is buried, and he'll never give up that information.
Antaf is thinking that Unas has the right of it, is the right of succession, but this is not the way to do it.
And I think Unis is thinking that I think he's thinking that this is his duty because Rhea is weak. Whether or not that's true.
Yeah. Okay. You just think I'm weak. Sure. Okay. So, where is this scene taking place, by the way, Robert? It's in one of the temples, right?
Yeah. I think it's at the probably. I mean, I'm picturing at the shrine or the
altar.
Altar. Yeah.
Yeah, I picture this as like the capital city, and we're like in like the major not necessarily the cathedral, but like the pantheon or the Parthenon of the gods, right? Like whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's the big. It's the formal church, right?
For some reason, I'm picturing. Did you guys
the High Temple?
Ever see the trailer for the Old Republic video game, like the Star Wars MMO, where the Sith show up to the Jedi Temple and just start
Oh yeah. Now that you said that, yeah, like this huge stone pillars, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm picturing as the scene here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Time to kill some younglings.
Yeah. So I call out to my brother, right, being like, "You're too late."
Too late. This is an inevitability. It brings me no joy, Rhea, but it must be done.
Your reckless ambition will cost the lives of not just countless numbers of your followers, but can't you see the damage it's going to cause to your family, to your wife and your son? Will they ever truly know peace? For what? What is the end of your ambition, brother?
Only by going forward will they know peace. This you must know. It is the way of things.
Just because you have our father's sword doesn't make you better than anyone.
Oh, I thought that I thought you had like the location of it, and I specifically didn't have the sword.
Oh, then maybe
Maybe
I'm
I
mistaken,
misunderstood.
right?
Okay.
Well, maybe my character thinks you have it.
Okay. I mean, I'm whichever. It's just.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Fine. That's
Slowly
fine.
thrown
Let
on
me
the
resay it. Let me resay it then. I got it. Perfect. Okay. So then he says, "You know, I'll never tell you where our father is buried. That sword will never belong to you. It's not yours."
If you insist on weakening the kingdom in this way, in forcing me to rely upon a fake that will not slow the tides of history. It only causes jeopardy for my lineage. For the if you refuse, for the danger you will be causing my son, your end will be slow.
I'm prepared to die, brother. But the life that you're going to have after you kill me in front of the gods in this most holiest of place, are you prepared to live that life?
Yeah, I think it's at this point that Intef steps in. I think we see him like bursting through a door, like in off to the left, and he's standing in between the two brothers, and he has a sword in his hand.
Totally.
Maybe we get that like last word. But like, are you prepared to live this life if you kill me? And then he stumbles in. Yeah, he has a sword in one hand, and maybe some sort of like relic in the other, maybe some sort of like golden cup. And he looks at, I think it looks at Unas. Says, "What do you want to do here, my lord?"
It has nothing to do with what I want done. It is what must be done.
Raya acts quickly. Raya grabs Intef and from a concealed part of his robes draws a sword and keeps you like at a hostage, right? And say, "Are you prepared to lose the life of your most proud warrior, brother?"
I think Intef drops the relic at this point.
Yeah.
So we hear like ring to
Clink.
the ground.
Yeah, totally, right? Like, and you hear this reverberate, right? Like imagine just this voice of reverberating, right? So like, are you prepared to have your most trusted soldier die?
Yeah, I think he makes a point of that pride thing. Says, "I'm not proud of this."
You know that you will best me in combat.
This move
but
is
this worth it?
You You question my resolve in this matter? I will show you my resolve.
I think
Forward. He gestures to his men. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I think like I've been sitting on the rafters this whole time, like kind of watching, like trying, like as a cat, just being like, why are these people in my house?
Mm-hmm.
And I think like you see whoever's facing the altar. I don't think it matters quite who sees the cat like just hop down and just sit on top, like in the way that cats perch, like just in a really awkward place, and is just looking at whoever is looking at the altar, just staring at them, almost as a like past Rhea or like Rhea, you're looking at the cat. I think I'll have Rhea. You see this cat just staring at you, like almost asking like, what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna call that out, right? I'm gonna call that, like, you know, I think there's a religious symbolism of the cats watching, right? And it's gonna be like bloodshed under the eyes of the gods is a curse.
Indeed. And then Intep stabs Raya.
Yeah. Okay, Raya dies for sure.
Yeah.
It's dark, right? Or are we voting the scene?
There was obviously a light scene. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, light and cheerful.
All right.
We're having a good time.
Yeah, good scene. Cool. Then it comes to me then, and it's my turn after the scene. And I'm actually going to do...
Do you want to change the answer to that question?
Oh,
yeah.
You have to answer the question, right? The answer to the question is Unas lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unas is the brother who lives. So I'm going to make a troubling event under the War of the Kings.
Fratricide.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say Unas rediscovers Sennett's tomb. And it's a dark event. Because I'm assuming in the tomb, the father was buried with a sword, right? Like that's so. Like he's going in there to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I am the Senate. Yes. Cool. So then that happens, and it goes back to Umbra. Umbra, it's your turn, and you get to end this focus here, doing the same kind of like double move thing if you wanted to again, or a single move. It's your choice.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think I want to do a scene in the tomb.
Okay.
And I think this... Let's see. I think this is the very end of the war, I think. And the reason it's the end of the war, it's not because Unas is going to reclaim his father's sword and like reunite the kingdom. It's because he's dying. He's an old man. And the world has gone on without him. Whoever's actually in charge now has made peace with their neighbors. And Unas has just dedicated his life to finding this tomb. And I think with his final act, as some sickness or other is tearing his body apart, he's going to take the sword out of the tomb and throw it in the river.
So, what is the question that your scene asks? I love the idea that he's been fighting his whole entire life to find this sword, and even when he finally finds it, and he can't even use it because he's too old.
Yeah, I think the question. Maybe the question is just what becomes of the sword. Like, how is the sword lost for a long time?
Okay.
So now it's posted in the river. It's gonna wash up somewhere else, I'm sure.
Yeah. Is that light or dark?
I think that's probably light. I mean, it's the end of the war.
Yep. Okay. Cool. All right. So now the focus will shift as Brad, you take over the lens this time. But we are about due for our first break. It's the top of the hour, so we're gonna catch what Brad's gonna choose on the other. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, one more thing, real quick. The legacies. So before you transfer over the lens to the next play, or the lens to the next player, a legacy happens. A legacy is sort of something that comes up during play. I can get to create an event or a dictated scene about it, and I'm going to choose. I'm gonna do something with Raya because they're a pretty cool character. Actually Intef. I'm gonna make an event. I'm gonna make an event under the Trials of the Earth. It's gonna be a really simple event. It's gonna be Intef saves Unas. At sea. It's a light scene. So my first legacy is Intef, the soldier. And because I made the Trials of the Earth and made an event, I get to make the anchor for that person, for that one, and I'm doing Intef. Right? Cool. All right. Sorry, now we can go to break, and then when we come back on the other side, Brad's going to pick up the lens hat and put it on top of his already stylish hat and take over creating our new focus, and the game proceeds. All right, guys, so we'll see you on the other side.